Hey everyone, welcome back to Installation 00, and more specifically, welcome to the Armory. This is where all weapons from Halo lore will be featured and analysed in detail. In this episode, we look at one of the most epic, one of the most iconic, most legendary weapons in the Halo franchise, and one that, while overpowered in-game, is so much fun to shoot, but has also been the bane of many people's fights on multiplayer and campaign alike. Today, we look at the Needler. Let's begin. The Type 33 guided munitions launcher is a Covenant projectile weapon that fires long, sharp, crystalline shards that are guided until they impale a target, hence the Needler moniker. Several seconds after coming to rest in their target, the needles detonate, creating severe and in most cases, fatal wounds. The Needler's top plate has 14 holes, with the needles protruding out the holes. When the trigger is pulled, the needle is fed from the top into the barrel of the weapon and fired at high speed. The Type 33 GML is used by Covenant foot soldiers of nearly all types. Yanmi are also fond of this weapon, and their efficiency with it is high as their flying capabilities in large numbers makes the needles harder to dodge. When the trigger is held down, the rate at which the needles are fired increases. Due to its use by the members of the Covenant and them being physiologically larger than humans, it is hardly surprising that, although it is wielded like a handgun, the weapon is much too large to be wielded in the same way by the average human. It measures 57.8 to 74.3 centimeters in length, or 22.8 to 29.3 inches, depending on the variant. Its barrel is 16.26 centimeters, or 6.4 inches. Its width is 21.6 centimeters or 8.5 inches, its height is 53 centimeters or 21 inches, and its weight empty is 3.74 kilograms or 8.2 pounds, and fully loaded is 4.3 kilograms or 9.5 pounds. Unlike most Covenant weaponry, the Needler does not incorporate reverse-engineered Forerunner technology. The Needler was one of the most unusual weapons in the Covenant arsenal, and the least understood. How the weapon functions remains a mystery to human military experts and scientists. Like most Covenant weapons, the T-33GML lacks any kind of electronic, physical or radiative connections between its trigger and the firing mechanism. However, post-war analysis and study have shown that the shards track their targets by homing in on the specific heat signatures of sighted targets. The physics behind the weapon were apparently not well known, as joint human and Sangheili teams were known to be studying the weapon sometime after the war. Razor-sharp crystalline projectiles made of Sudanese crystal or blamite are fired from this elaborately designed Covenant weapon. It is widely believed that the needles use heat or organic signatures to home in on targets, and may have some relation to the plasma grenade or the plasma pistol's charged shots, which also react to living tissue and sentinel mechanics. The needles appear to have some sort of identity friend or foe function, as they will home in on hostile targets but not allies of the wielder. Once fired, a needle will seek its target until impact, entering the victim's body violently. After several seconds, the contents of the crystalline shard will detonate. Injuries inflicted from the exploding shard are gruesome, as microscopic pieces of shrapnel can become embedded in tissue. The crystalline projectiles appear to contain some type of gas or energy which is released upon impact with a target. After 7 or more needles have struck a target in the same general area, the needles will react to each other, triggering an explosion that kills the victim instantly. The explosion of multiple needles is a result of proximal resonance instability. When either a single or multiple needles detonate, they release crystal shrapnel which can embed itself in nearby organisms. Thus, friendly fire is often a necessary consideration in close quarters combat. The Type 33, unlike the other Covenant weapons, allows the user to aim at the closest target, fire, and move on, as its homing ability allows its user to avoid being exposed to enemy fire while inflicting his own. The more needle rounds that impact the target, the higher the degree of damage it will do to the target. 7 or more needle shards detonating at the same place will cause a massive explosion that will cause splash damage and cause shrapnel damage, which can also cause nearby explosives to detonate, giving the enemy another reason to run. The projectiles ricochet when they hit rigid surfaces at oblique angles, and retain sufficient velocity, making dodging them a challenging feat. The weapon is most useful on wide open areas, as even though it has limited effective range, the projectiles can follow a target for a long time, and thus will almost certainly hit anything moving slower than the projectiles themselves. In the very least, it is a good weapon at forcing an enemy into cover. However, in newer games such as Halo 4 and Halo 5, the Needler is more effective against shields than it previously was. While the Type 33 GML is incredibly effective against most infantry, it is much less effective against vehicles. The crystalline projectiles are slow and ineffective to even light armour and will simply bounce off of them. The Needler is also limited to medium-range combat situations, and even at that range it's not as effective. As the projectile travels, it loses velocity and thus loses altitude, reducing the chances of an impact on a target. In order for the tracking ability to be most effective, the targeting reticle on the user's heads-up display must acquire the target, or if no target reticle is available, the user must judge how close he must be to the target in order to effectively use the weapon. While the homing ability is incredibly useful, the crystalline shard cannot track the target relentlessly. Turning at a certain angle will cause the projectile to simply keep flying and miss the target completely. Fast turns at certain angles will also cause the projectiles to lose their target and travel onward. The Needler is also ineffective against linear energy fields like the point defense gauntlets carried by the Kigyar, or stationary energy shields, as the projectiles are repelled without detonating. Another more minor disadvantage is that the Needler is ill-suited to setting off explosive devices like fusion coils, often requiring several clips of ammunition to destroy one. Another disadvantage would be that the Type 33 GML's lack of instant results. In other words, one could shoot a target with the 7 needles required to super combine but be killed by that target before the needles detonate. And finally, the Needler is suited to a very limited medium range. This is because the projectiles have too great a travel time for long range, and at close range the target can simply move towards the shooter and attempt to kill them without the resulting explosion, thus rendering the attack useless. The Needler is an exotic, beautiful and yet terrifying weapon to behold. Its very nature makes it unwieldy and intimidating to handle, but once you're comfortable not sticking yourself in the eye with the protruding needles, there isn't a weapon on the enemy's arsenal that is nearly as much fun to shoot, and the way in which the projectiles take a target down brings a whole different meaning to the military term pink mist. Thanks for watching. Stick your comments down below, I look forward to what you have to say. I want to give a quick shout out to my patrons: Sir Tenchi, the Silent Cartographer, Brian, Sebastian, Holden, Nathan, Red Sea, Darian and Neek, the holders of the mantle, Ty, Black Biscuit, J Rabbit, Austin, Kaiser, Silux, Reclaimer 216 and the Revanche, my Reclaimers, Zach, Deep Cover, Verbal Statue, Spesigo, Spartan A498, Guppy, Josh, Mickey, Bastion, Molshar and Slithery Tube Dude, my Metarchs, and all the other patrons that have jumped aboard to support the channel. You guys are awesome, and all of this wouldn't be possible without you. If you like Halo lore discussed to insane levels of detail, hit that subscribe button and the little bell icon so you're told the second a new video hits the shelves. Be sure to support us on all major social media channels including Discord, and if you really love the channel, consider heading over to Patreon and supporting the channel over there. It would mean the world to me and would free up more of my time for me to put into this content and other Halo related goodness. Take it easy everyone, and find peace in the domain.